So top 3 would be communicate with your partner. Another would be to basically enjoy the moment. And the other is remember that I want you to stop defining yourself as an orgasm, because you're more than that.
I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. And we're back for another exciting episode of Iron Therapy. I'm Dave Palumbo, joined by our RXMuscle psychotherapist, Lesley Timbol, and we're back. I think, is this our first show back after my surgery?
Yeah, I think because we tried taping last week, but then there was an internet connection issue.
My internet. You know what? I had to rig up my heart. I had to go old-fashioned on my computer. I had to get the hard line plugged into the computer, which means I had to buy a converter. It was a whole pain in this. But I can't deal with Wi-Fi anymore. You know what? Even the best Wi-Fis screw up from now and again. And you know what? It drives me crazy. There's nothing worse. I'm like one of these guys that has to do things efficiently. And if I'm bogged down by like any kind of like technical difficulty or, internet, I guess connectivity would be considered something like that. It drives me nuts because I feel like I'm wasting time, you know?
Well, your big part of your business is the internet and doing these shows. So yes.
No, but it just goes. I hate, like, even when I'm driving someplace, if I hit traffic, like we should probably do a show on this. Like I sit in traffic and I'm totally stressed out because I'm like, what a waste of time this is. I should have been there already. I've been in traffic. It's going to take me an extra 45 minutes to get there. I'm like, total waste of time. Now, the only reason I wouldn't say it was a waste of time is if I'm concurrently doing like a phone consult, then that might be acceptable. But I don't like to waste time. We have so little of it, right?
Very true. Very true.
We're very limited time for it. All right. So let's, today's topic is interesting because I was doing Ask Dave the other day and I was asked a question that I've been asked probably 150 times before. And that's from men who are on cycles who can't get erections, when they're with their girlfriend or a new girl or dating some girl. And I always ask them, the first question I ask them, because I've been asked this question so much, is, if you're like masturbating on your own, can you get an erection? And 99.9% of the time they say, absolutely, yes. I said, well, then obviously you don't have an erection issue. You have a mental issue because you're getting nervous or something in your brain is stopping you from being able to perform when you're with another person. And I said, so there's you have to differentiate. Whereas sometimes I'll get guys that are on too much DECA and they can't get an erection at all, period. And that's because their prolactin is too high. But most of the time that's not the issue. A lot of times it's a psychological thing. And so I never really know what to tell these people other than that. Try to relax, maybe spend more time with the girl, before you start getting intimate with them so you don't put so much pressure on yourself. But that's your level of expertise. What do you tell someone who gives you that scenario? I mean, what can guys do to fix the problem, so to speak?
It's a great question, Dave. And the thing is, this isn't just for bodybuilders. I get this in my private practice quite a bit too. And the thing is that and I'm going to give you like a toolbox, if you will, certain things. So this is in no particular order, but one is talk to your partner about it. Because sometimes I call it the zit on the nose phenomenon, meaning like we're the only one that really notices it. And the other person may not realize that you're having this anxiety. Talk to your partner about it because they might be able to reassure you. That might mean you might need some more visual cues or more verbal cues. And, just kind of brainstorming together some solutions where it can put the guy's mind a little bit more at ease might be helpful. And just even talking about it, being vulnerable with your partner can actually make you feel emotionally closer. Because one of the one of the causes of sexual performance anxiety can be, not all the time, but it can be poor body image, which includes, let's say weight concerns or body dysmorphia or whatever that might be. Right. The other piece is avoid making orgasm the end goal. So you are more than an orgasm, believe it or not. So here's the thing. It's important to find pleasure in other ways, as far as how to be intimate, even without sexual intercourse. So such as giving your partner a sensual massage, for instance, or taking a warm bath together, or even spending more time on foreplay. Sometimes people get caught up in the wham, bam, thank you, ma'am kind of mentality. Right. And it's like, well, if you don't enjoy the moment, you can't get the arousal. And then you're so focused on getting that orgasm or having your partner orgasm, you're not enjoying the moment. Right. Because Dave, sex isn't just about, it's nice to help your partner orgasm. That's great. But it's also for you. Right. So for the guys who are having these kinds of problems, remember, it's supposed to be enjoyable for you too. And if you're focused totally on making your partner happy, which again, that's great. But if that's your only end goal, you're setting yourself up for failure.
But yeah, and you know what the funny thing is, I know, and I've said to a lot of people, because before Cialis and Viagra were around, this was a much bigger issue because there was nothing you could do about it. Basically, if you couldn't do it, you couldn't do it. Nowadays, you can pop a Cialis, an hour or two before the person gets there. And usually that solves the problem for most people. But I know some people that are such mental cases that even a Cialis or Viagra won't allow them to get an erection because they start working this whole thing up into their head so much so. I think you're right. I think the best approach, and I did this when I was much younger, obviously, because I would create my own anxiety too, is until I became comfortable with the person, is you tell them right off the bat, hey, you know what? I really like you a lot. And so don't take this personal, but I'm a little nervous because of the fact that I actually like you, which completely makes the other person feel really good about the fact that they feel special, number one. And then it takes the pressure off of you because you've already told them how you feel. And so now now you can kind of slow the pace down a little bit and you don't have to try to impress the other person, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah. There's two angles. People can have this with people that they're just in new relationships with. Yeah. So it's kind of I want to impress this chick or whatever. Right. So I get that, or even if you're having a one-night stand, not to say I'm encouraging one-night stands, but then you just talk about some more general outlines as far as what you like and what you don't like versus, hey, I get anxious when. So, and then there's those situations where someone's been with their partner for a long period of time and then suddenly they didn't have a problem with sex before, and all of a sudden now they're having a hard time either getting that erection or keeping it, because you can be attracted to your partner. So you might be able to get the erection, but you may not be able to maintain it for very long. So that can be an issue. And sometimes the cause of that is that it's a reflection of, again, it's just one of the reasons, is there could be an issue of a breakdown in the relationship.
Oh, true. Resentment and stuff like that, going on.
And that can build up. Again, they can get that erection, but then once they try to connect physically, they're reminded of all this other garbage, emotional garbage that hasn't been resolved in the relationship.
Sure. I always make a joke about this. When I was a kid, boys are different than girls, but we can, if you have to pee, what do? You just go pee, right? You can pee anywhere pretty much. And I always had pee anxiety as a kid, meaning that I got to be alone in the room, or I got to be in a little stall. I can't just I couldn't as a kid just go to the urinal and urinate, with 14 guys in the room. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, I went to soccer camp when I was a kid, and they would wake us up like 6 a.m. to go for a run. And guys would be running in the bathroom and just peeing before they go, because usually when you wake up, you have to pee, right? Mm-hmm. And I couldn't be alone. I needed the locker room alone, where I could pee. Otherwise, I couldn't be. So I had to run holding in a whole bladder of urine, which sounds ridiculous, but I couldn't do it. I would run into the woods and pee someplace and then continue the run. So I think people who have pee anxiety, it can also translate into even having sex anxiety initially until you're comfortable. If you're in a comfortable environment, that doesn't seem to happen. Now I know guys that can pee. You could tell them pee in the middle of Times Square in Manhattan, and they can whip it out and pee. Those guys never have sexual problems either. They never have any kind of performance anxiety. Some people just have anxiety by nature, maybe because they're perfectionists and they want everything to go perfectly. And then other people just don't give a shit. They have that like I don't give a shit attitude, and they never have any problems, you know.
Well, to your point, it's that fear of being judged. Some people don't give a shit, and some people do. And it's about saying, well, there's a line. There's a healthy line and a line that's not so healthy. And when you get to that unhealthy line, there's some strategies that can help you overcome those things. Right. I mean, you know, I tell people mindfulness. You've probably heard this concept, you know, be present in the moment. Like I said, don't focus on even for athletes, you know, instead of, you know, for let's say a team, forget the scoreboard. Focus on what your job is on the field or on the rink or whatever. It's kind of like the same kind of thing when you're having sex. It's forget the orgasm for the moment. Just enjoy the moment. Focus on your partner too, but you might need to focus on yourself. And that might be, you know, obviously pleasuring her. It could be pleasuring yourself to be in the moment. That's fine.
Yeah.
And that's okay to touch base. And we all get distracted. At moments in time, we get distracted. Just rein yourself back in, focus on the moment, and then enjoy yourself. Again, this is supposed to be something pleasurable, not a to-do item, so to speak.
Right. But you know what happens also when you're with someone new, it's for some people, it's uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable. And when you're uncomfortable, you have too many inhibitions and you can't release them. Like I said, some people have no pee anxiety. Some people have pee anxiety. And the reason I give you that analogy is because it's very similar to having sex. Some people are just more concerned about what's going on around them. Other people just don't give a shit. And so it's fine to have anxiety with someone new. Now, like you said, if you're with someone for 2-3 years and all of a sudden you can't get it up anymore, you know, and it's not related to any kind of anabolics you're taking, then that's a little bit more troubling because now the person you're with thinks you don't love them or there's something they're doing, you know, and then it becomes a big issue. Whereas when it's initially in the initial stages of a relationship, I don't think anyone has any expectations right off the bat.
And even if they get really nervous because they've been eyeing this girl for a long time or whoever this person is, and they finally got their phone number or whatever, and they hook up. You know, the greatest way is to ask this person that you don't know what really turns you on. You know, and because different things. I mean, some people, you know, like to be peed on. That's not everyone's cup of tea. So it's kind of like get that out there.
No, but you know, I think what it is I think that I don't think like these guys, like men who have trouble getting an erection have problems with giving pleasure to the other person. I think what happens is they're maybe so preoccupied with the fact that they're worried about how they're going to be judged, you know, by the other person that they can't relax enough to allow their body to do what it naturally would normally do, you know.
But the thing is, if they know from the other person, this is part of the communication piece, Dave, they say, okay, this turns me on, X, Y, and Z. And they do that, then they'll get the visual stimulation of the other person enjoying the experience, which will help make them relax more because they're getting feedback, hey, I'm doing a good job.
Right. I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. But like I said, also in today's, you know, day and age with Cialis and Viagra, and they got that PT141 now that you can inhale, I think too. I know Titan sells that stuff. There are other ways, even melanotan too has like a Viagra-like effect. I mean, there are other ways of getting around that little bit of like maybe initial, you know, problem that you might have to start with. And, you know, if you need a little help, that's what those things are there for. It doesn't mean you have to use it every time, but maybe the first couple of encounters, you know, that will help ease your mind a little bit. Hey, I don't have to worry about that because I got something taking care of the little guy or the big guy downstairs, you know, whatever.
So yeah, going to professionals, whoever, you know, doctors or various clinics or therapists to help. You know, there are treatment strategies out there or help you find the underlying causes of this. But the other piece that we can't ignore is the exercise. I mean, obviously it can help with your body image, and exercise helps with your stamina. So we can't discount that piece either.
I asked them Titan once about, you know, some of these, you know, sexual aids, the Cialis and Viagra and the PT stuff they sell. And I said, how does that stuff sell? And they said, like #1 sellers. Like, so a lot of people might not necessarily have issues, but it seems like everyone wants to be Superman in that department. You know what I mean?
They want to make sure they have a successful result.
But it is kind of weird how so many people are so preoccupied with that. Because I have guys who said to me, "Oh yeah, I just met this new girl. I'm on like 25 Cialis a day, and and I take it every single day." And I mean, they're so worried about performance, and it's so that the reason I'm saying is it's a lot of people out there who feel the same way. It's not just like a couple of nutcases. That's not the case. Everyone is just as concerned about that, at least initially in the relationship. I think once you get used to a person, you've been with them a while, you're so comfortable that it doesn't even matter anymore because you know the person. But I think in the initial stages of a lot of relationships, that's a big issue for men, at least,
And to your point, it happens more often with men, but it can happen with women. And what it looks like for women when they have that is they'll have vaginal dryness. So, it becomes very painful in that case, in which case that's not going to be pleasurable at all. And, it's going to make the guy feel bad because he wants to stop. And the female does, it creates this dynamic. So I tell people, have some lube or at the very least some coconut oil around. I mean, like,
or a little macadamia nut oil.
Or a little macadamia oil. Yeah.
Being a woman yourself, I mean, I think men all think that women like judge them based on performance. Do women do that, or is that like just like a myth?
I think it depends on the woman. It depends on the woman. Like if you get these, we could do a show on this, on the new style feminists, then that would be a little bit different because I think they're God's gift to women, or God gives gift to men, and that's just kind of like they're judging guys so unfairly on a whole bunch of ranges, not just the sex piece, but kind of like the old-fashioned people. It's kind of the reasonable, sane females, and believe it or not, there are some out there. No, they don't care.
You know what the funny thing is? Nowadays, if you can't perform, you could just always say, you know what, I kind of really woke up today feeling like a woman, so I'm kind of associating as a woman today. So maybe we should just put this off till tomorrow. I'll probably feel like a man again tomorrow.
So does that mean if I wake up in the morning, I say I feel like an IFBB pro? Does that mean I can call myself an IFBB pro?
Absolutely, because you know what, it would be discrimination against you if you couldn't, right?
Canada's trying to pass a law that if someone wants to be called a particular gender and if they're not being respected, they can get charged. It's ridiculous.
I think now some people think that some kids think they're cats and dogs and stuff like that. You have to, and they want to be recognized. So, matter of fact, my wife took my son to the pediatrician the other day, and even on all the forms now, they have like non-binary, and wow. she asked the pediatrician, do you see a lot of transgenders? He's like, we probably have about 5 or 6 here in the practice, which I found kind of interesting that there was that many of them. She's like, are they all pretty legit? He goes, all but one of them, so there was like one confused person, but the other like 4 were legit, like so I guess that there are legitimate, transgenders out there, but
there are, but there's probably more. Well, if you talk to people in the who are real transgenders, they don't like this stuff that's going on.
No, they don't want to they don't even want to be involved in it. They're embarrassed by it. I think a lot of them,
Yeah, they are. The problem is a lot of it, like how does a 5-year-old know the different, like they're too young. They're too young to know. It's the parents pushing certain things. I mean, you can still have a girl who likes sports. It doesn't mean she identifies as a male. She could just be a tomboy. There's nothing wrong with that.
Valentino said it best. The real transgenders that are men that want to be women, they don't want anyone to even know that they're not women. Like they don't make a big deal about it. They don't want rights. They just want people to think, hey, there's a beautiful woman. That's it.
Yep.
And they don't want any other attention brought. They don't want people to know they're trans. They just want to be, that's a woman. And so that makes sense. That would be like, if I really thought I was a woman, I wouldn't want all the attention on me. I would just want to say, okay, people just assume that I'm a woman and that's it. But evidently, I think there's a lot of what I call activists out there, which are not necessarily real transgenders. They're people who are just like, it's kind of like a fetishy thing, or maybe like a cool thing to do. And they just, they're the ones who are causing all the trouble, I think, pretty much.
And I agree, Dave, and a lot of it has to do with the lack of meaning in their lives. And they're trying to grasp onto something that, like you said, as an activist, have some type of meaning and fight for some type of justice, so to speak. Right. But again, to put that on a kid, that's not right. Not to mention it, we can go into a really long discussion on the pharma piece about this. But it's do I believe that there are legitimate transgenders out there? Yes, I do. But I think a lot of them aren't. A lot of them
Yeah,
are.
a lot of copycats out there.
Yeah.
But anyway, to get back to the original question, performance and anxiety. Give me a top 3 things that you should that all men who are experiencing it should go through, like a checklist in their head they should go through to hopefully try to work their way through it so that it doesn't bother them as much.
So top 3 would be communicate with your partner. Another would be to basically enjoy the moment. And the other is remember that I want you to stop defining yourself as an orgasm, because you're more than that.
That's right. Good advice from a very wise woman. Lesley, thanks for giving us some, I guess you could say, I always call it, like good common sense, because some people just, they turn these things into such a major calamity. And really what it is really just common sense. And once you could take the stress and the pressure off of the process and just think of it in common sense terms, a lot of times that neutralizes the whole problem right then and there. So
well, thanks for having me on, Dave. I really appreciate it. I missed the iron therapy.
Yeah,
I'm glad we're back.
And if you guys have any ideas for future topics for future shows, we can even do a show on transgender and the mindset of a transgender. Maybe we could even get someone on the show. Maybe we can get a guest. If we could find a bodybuilder or something like that. I've interviewed Matt Kroc before, but maybe we could find someone else even that can give us some insights into what it's like to be a transgender, and maybe even a transgender in the bodybuilding world. That might be a good topic as well.
That would be.
But for now, we are out of time. And I'm Dave Palumbo with Lesley Timbol. We will see you again next week.
Take care, guys.